This week on Lone Lobos.
And Guillermo sent a little drawing. It's like, this is what I want the head to look
Wow.
like bashed in. And I'm like, okay, we just copied that. I was always fascinated with things that looked realistic. Being from Southern Louisiana, you have a lot of people have deer heads on their walls and bass and things like that. And
Yeah, is there anything that you're working on right now that you can tell us on? Or is it all kind of under wraps? What's been taking up most of your time?
I don't know if you've heard Universal Epic Universe. It's a brand new theme park in
Yeah.
Orlando. Everybody thought I was crazy to move to Los Angeles. Once you get that first credit in a movie crawl at the end, then it's like, okay, now it's real.
3, 2, 1, go!
Come on.
Welcome to everyone back home in the car, listening to wherever you are. My name is Xolo Maridueña. I am one whole of your host today on the Lone Lobos podcast, joined by my one and only producers, of course, JM Cam and Monica Tamayo. Welcome. Y'all are looking beautiful. I miss you. Thank you so much for holding down the fort while I'm away. And today we're joined by a very special guest in the studio, looking through our drawers,
Yes.
is a practical effects magician of sorts, a tried and true cornerstone of the entertainment industry. You might know him from his work on things like Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds or my mother's favorite, 6 Feet Under. Uh, he's also the founder and runner of Romaire Studios. And today we are joined by none other, Lee Romaire. Lee, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
And we're super excited today to talk about your most recent work
Yes.
on one of my favorite directors, Guillermo del Toro's newest installation, Frankenstein. Lee, it is a pleasure to have you on today. I wish I could be there, but you're looking real fine in our studio. The chairs are matching the glasses, and
yeah.
and I wore my hat just to be right there with you. But first and foremost, Lee, I kind of wanted to dive into the Frankenstein of it all and really get to hear first and foremost how you stepped into this world. I got to reading a bit about you, and you've kind of had a couple of different eras in your interests. You and I might both be similarly aligned in our kind of my secret love, but now public love of taxidermy and like
Oh.
really cool.
Yes.
I think it is one of the maybe more niche, but really cool hobbies to get into. Can you tell us, set the record straight, how it was that you got into practical effects?
Okay, I'll start from the very beginning because it involves taxidermy. When I was a kid, I grew up in Southern Louisiana,
Okay.
and I was always fascinated with things that looked realistic. So it could be a monster on the Saturday morning or Sunday morning
Mhm.
monster movie special. It could be a fake artificial rock or trees, anything from
Mm.
Disneyland. Those environments I loved. So being from Southern Louisiana, you have a lot of people have deer heads on their walls and bass and things like that, and ducks. And I would always go in and study those things. There was a restaurant called Harbor Seafood and my parents would take me there to eat, and they had fish all over the walls, and they had these little frogs that played pool and all kind of crazy taxidermy displays. So I would spend most of my time standing up, going around and looking at all this stuff instead of being at the table. And one day, a guy who worked for my dad, my family has a machine shop there, and he did taxidermy for a hobby. So he
Oh,
showed me how to do a little crawfish, and I was 8 years old, I think, at the time. So he
wow.
Yeah, and he had
You didn't make your first paper airplane. You were like, let's skip right ahead.
yes. So he had this course that he had bought online, not I say online, by mail back then. He had a taxidermy course and he gave it to me. He gave me all the little books and I guess I knew how to read by then. So I sat there and learned how to do it myself. And I had a little shop. I had a little area where I could do the taxidermy. I did it, for myself. People would bring me things to work on. A neighbor always had something to give me, and then all of a sudden, people started bringing me things to do and pay me to do it. So I had like
Whoa.
a little business that I did until I left and went to college. So other people were playing football. That's what I was doing. And combined with that, I did love monster makeup. I loved stop motion animation, that kind of thing. I never really
Oh yeah.
played with that so much, but that's kind of where I they started the whole thing to learning about realism and learning about physical things.
Funny that you said you were from, Southern Louisiana. Maybe one of the coolest, albeit maybe not, craziest pieces of taxidermy that I've ever seen was in a antique shop in New Orleans of 4 raccoons playing poker together
Right.
and, smoking some cigars and stuff like
Yes.
this. It is up there on my list of things that I regret not picking up. If I ever make it back down there, I will be the
Yeah,
first one back in line,
that would
but
look great in here. Yeah,
it's it'd be the
yeah.
side conversation. It'd be the kids table, on the podcast here. But it's, you know, going from this stage in Louisiana up until college, like you're saying, where you're kind of making this is, one of your biggest interests and something that you're investing a lot of time in. How does that translate into actually getting to, work on productions and stuff like this?
It's an interesting story how it came about. So I went to college at LSU, Louisiana State University, and my parents wanted me to go into business, and I was more creative. I did want to do some business things, but I was not good at it. Or I was not good at the numbers. So I found advertising, and there was a creative outlet there that I could get involved in. Um, so I think there was a movie called with Tom Hanks in it, where he was a advertising executive, a creative guy, and I'm like, oh, I could do that. Because I come up with ideas all the time. So that's what I went into, and I took these courses in advertising, and one teacher in particular took a notice of me, and he liked some of the writing that I did. Like, wow, that's really
Mm.
inventive. So he kind of nurtured me, and that's what I became, like a copywriter, art director kind of thing. I graduated, and I got to work at a place called Diane Allen and Associates. She was a advertising legend in Baton Rouge, and so I got to work for her as a runner, and they let me write ads, they let me design ads, they let me just do whatever I
Whoa.
wanted. So, that like really pumped up my creativity or my abilities. I think it gave me a lot of confidence that I could be creative and make a living. So, I did that. So I graduated. I did that for about 10 years. I moved to New York for a year. Was I think, too immature to live in Manhattan. So I moved back to New Orleans, where my immaturity could really shine. And I kind of had little clients there, and freelance, so I had that going on. Um, but it just wasn't fulfilling to me for some reason.
Mm.
And I was really searching for years, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? This isn't right. And finally, like one day it just hit me. I'm going to be a special effects makeup artist because I
Mm.
I loved this stuff as a kid. I loved monsters. I loved going to Disneyland and seeing these mechanical things.
Yeah.
These pirates and these ghosts and all this stuff and Jungle Cruise, and Um, so that like a switch kind of went off, and I was in a bookstore maybe a week or two after that, and I saw a magazine called Makeup Artist Magazine, and I picked it up, and they had a trade show that was in a month, um, a makeup artist trade show in Pasadena. So I'm like, okay, I'm going. I booked a ticket. I went. I stayed at the Motel 6 down the road, and I met a lot of people at this trade show. Some of who are, Emmy and Oscar winning kid. These are little kids that I met when I was there. Um, but I met the person that I met that was very important was Dick Smith. And Dick Smith is, if I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a legendary Oscar-winning makeup artist. He did Marlon Brando's makeup in The Godfather. He did
Wow.
Linda Blair's makeup in The Exorcist. Just all Amadeus. He worked on that. He worked on. I mean, the things he worked on just are legendary. And so I had this portfolio I put together because I had worked. I did a few things. When I stopped doing advertising, I'm like, I need to start sculpting. I need to get my hands dirty. So I started sculpting Mardi Gras props at, these Mardi Gras places in New
Yeah.
Orleans. So I had this portfolio, with, I think it had like a zombie head and it had something else, and he looked at it and he's like, well, he's like, he's very blunt, and he's like, well, you're no Rick Baker, but I think you have some potential. So call me. Um, and so that began like about a year and a half or almost 2 year back and forth with Dick Smith. And he was retired at that point. And he was like mentoring people and teaching people. And
Wow.
yeah, so it was just a really intense, I think 18 months or 19 months of me like really working hard, building and kind of learning, sculpting prosthetics. And, then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I want to move to Los Angeles. And he kind of said, don't do it. You're, it's already, there's already more people that want to do this than are jobs available and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it anyway. So, yeah,
What was it that made this Frankenstein project specifically kind of aligned with the visions of your studio?
a friend named Mike Hill, who's a brilliant, creature designer, sculptor. He's probably one of the best likeness sculptors in the world. He actually is friends with Guillermo and colleagues with Guillermo. They worked
Okay.
together on The Shape of Water, and Mike, did the creature from The Shape of Water. He was heavily involved in that. Guillermo asked him to design the creature, Frankenstein. So he also had this large, volume of effects. Dead bodies, animals, all the stuff. And, since I'm, pigeonholed into I'm the dead animal guy of Hollywood.
Oh,
So
no.
it's like, taxidermy again. He called me up and he's like, yeah, hey, I got this thing. Can you, do these animals? And we do a lot of right now, we do a lot of theme park robotic work. I mean, we're,
Mm.
kind of known for that right now. So it's like, we've got um, dead animals is kind of like a side job for fun. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do that definitely. To work with Guillermo and you so it all kind of worked out. I mean, that they had a certain thing that they wanted, and I think it do s- do do a bunch of dead sheep, do a bunch of dead huskies, and that the creature is they're gonna be mauled or whatever. I'm like, okay,
Can
so
you tell me what
that'll be
the
kind of
biggest
fun.
difference is between 2025 dead sheep and, 1800s dead sheep?
The production had already done a lot of research. So it was,
Whoa,
yeah, so
that's so
it
cool.
was really good. They had to go out, when you do these kind of shows with animals, you have to go out early and find the animals early on because a lot of times if you have babies, you have to go ahead of time, because they will grow
Yeah.
during the production. It's pretty difficult. But they went out and they researched it and said this is the kind of sheep and this is the kind of dog. They didn't really huskies looked a little different back in the day, and or they used different kind of sled dogs than the traditional huskies that you see now. So they found dogs, and we just had to match those animals. That they had already looked for. And it was basically like, which one do you like? You like this one? You like that one? Okay, let's match this one. Um, and then from there, it was, just scraping together. I used a lot of, a lot of, you make a lot of things out of fake fur.
Hmm.
Because some people use the real fur, but we try to use fake. We bought some sheepskin rugs off of off of eBay or wherever. I forgot. That actually worked really perfectly for the animals. And then we got to the point where it's like, okay, some of these need to be mauled a little bit. And I'm like, okay, what is this supposed to look like? And do you like it like this? You want us to flip his head completely around? Do you want to have, and Guillermo sent a little drawing. He's like, this is what I want the head to look
Wow.
like, bashed in. And I'm like, okay, we just copied that. So
And what a like I think Monica has some photos that I'd love to put up, but I just got to watching the movie earlier today, and I mean, you do have quite the variety of dead wolf and sheep. Like there are a couple of sequences in this movie where they get really creative with, what is happening to these animals.
that's like, the sheep without the fur on them.
Oh yeah.
So
No, I mean,
you have to do like so for that, those are like they have to be posable. They have to have gravity, on you have to show like gravity. You have to think about all these things like, okay, I'm sending this off to a production. I don't know how they're going to pose them. I don't know. Normally we have somebody on set, but in this case, we had to just hand it off. And, I was very comfortable with that, knowing that Mike was handling all this work. He's gonna make it look great. He's gonna make us look good. I'm not handing it off to someone who I don't know. So anyway, that's kind of, those are created so they're kind of floppy and they can be posed in the way they want them on the ground.
yeah, this is one of the most intriguing parts of these figures that you have to make, and that kind of like you're saying, thinking about the physics and the weight and the, way an animal would move. It's not just a statue. It always kind of puzzled me what, what happens to sometimes they make full life-size models of humans, that need to be
Yes.
carried, but they don't want the whole person, to have to be carried around.
Yeah.
What? I need to go to that. I mean, is that like Madame Tussauds adjacent? Or are all of these going to, like, is there a warehouse? What is the name of this um area between real life and not? Monica, Jordan, do you know kind of what I'm talking about here? The uncanny valley
Oh, yeah, the
of
Uncanny Valley.
prosthetic.
Yeah, well, it's, so there was a lot of many more dead bodies and body parts made for that show that, my friend Steve Newburn, I believe, made in Canada, for the show. And I think, with this movie in particular, I'm sure, like, all of the beautiful things that were actually handmade for it, you barely see any of it. It's just a background thing, and they spent,
Yeah.
I'm sure, months on building all of that stuff. They're dead though, so it's the uncanny valley is more about it's more about something that's alive, like a robot,
Yeah.
like a robot or makeup, like you said. It's that weird feeling that it's kind of real but not almost there, there's a point when it gets uncomfortable. Like, it's not quite all the way there, but it's,
I
on the
will
way.
say something that is all the way there, though, that I found out you had a hand in is this Stories of Abraham Lincoln experience at
Mm,
Disneyland.
right.
You have a history of getting to do, like you're saying, animatronics and you know practicals for theme parks, and that stuff has to that isn't maybe deep in the background or only has to work for days on end. This is stuff that has to kind of work for weeks and weeks and
Years.
constantly be adjusted.
Yeah.
How does what are the biggest differences between, making an animatronic for a ride versus something on screen? Are you working with other departments here to kind of get the robotics, or is
No.
your studio kind of doing it from A to Z?
Yeah, so I'll give you the background on how I got involved in that. So when I started the studio, I started in a garage in downtown Los Angeles. We started, doing the TV stuff and the movie stuff, any commercials, anything that I could get my hands on to, independently. I didn't have really a name, so I had to just kind of do what I could. And my friend worked at Disney Imagineering, and they were at the time they were working on the first kind of electric actuation on robots. So in the past, the things you see in the theme parks are hydraulic, which is oil,
Okay.
basically fluid motion, or pneumatic, which is air motion, like the tiki birds you see. Those little
Oh,
guys
yeah.
are just pumped with air to move. They were moving into electric. They felt that was the future, an electric actuation. So they were experimenting with heads mostly, and they called me in because they were making these realistic heads, and Lee sculpt a head, and we'll actuate it. And there were several different characters, but then a project came along that was they were going to redo Abraham Lincoln at Disneyland. Abraham Lincoln has his own show, and it was the first audio animatronic that Walt Disney ever created. He was actually involved with that whole project. It was
Whoa.
like one of his favorite things. This first audio animatronic human. So, that's where all of it came from. And I was going to be able to. They wanted me to sculpt the new Lincoln. So, um, like, okay, of course I want to do that. You know, uh, so I did. And I um, carefully, I didn't want to. The legendary sculptor Blaine Gibson, who sculpted all the pirates and all the ghosts in Lincoln, he did all the presidents, and so I had to be very careful and mindful of his work and try to incorporate the spirit
Mm,
of what he was doing into it. But we also added, the realism. The theatrical was already there, but the we added the realism
yeah.
that is in modern movie work now. So for example, um, those figures that are in the theme parks, they were women. They had a crew that would come in and fix this and dust them off and take the beard off and clean it and put the beard back. But it would always change a little bit because you're changing it every day. You're pinning it in a different way. So we actually punched the hair into the. In fact, we punched the whole beard into Abraham Lincoln, and then we shaved it off in certain areas. So we punched a mustache, and then we shaved it off. So you see the stubble. Certain things like that. The eyebrows had to be exactly right. One eye on Lincoln was a little more closed than the other. The hair, we developed a system where the hair would always go back in the same place. So there was like some innovation in that, and I kind of saw an opportunity. I'm like, wow, so this is kind of something that the theme parks need again. They need, theme parks started from the movie studios, but it kind of got away from that, I think. Um, and I'm like, let's bring some of this in because right now with AI and automation, these things are getting closer and closer to the audience.
Mhm.
They need to hold up better. So um, I saw an opportunity, and I really kind of put most of my energy into building um, that up. So, that was step one. And from there, they asked me to do a ton of different things, pirates, aliens, tiki birds, all this stuff. Country bears. I got to work on the country bears, which was one of my favorites as a kid. Um, the second part was animatronics. Like I had all these friends who did amazing mechanical uh, builds for the movies, and I'm like, we can make these things move really cool. Let me build the whole thing in my studio. So, you know, they let me do that. And then the third step was engineering. It's like you said, it's got to last for 20 years. It's got to have, when I sign a contract now, it's for 20 years, 95% reliability. So it has to be built like a car. And
Wow.
so that requires an engineering mindset. It requires engineers. So I created an engineering department, and that's kind of what sets us apart from everybody else. Is like we have a legitimate functioning engineering department that works hand in hand with the art department,
Yeah.
and creates these things.
Incredible. And what hmm, there's a couple of things that you said that I latched onto, and you know, one of the things is like I'm imagining you have the coolest Halloween costumes. Either that or people are always asking like, "Hey, yo, we want to be a fish person for Halloween. Is there are you like the line is out the door, honey? We got we have so many people."
So a lot of my friends are into that. I'm not. I like to, yeah.
You're like,
When I first moved here, I was doing the whole dress up thing, and then I just like, I don't want to put this all on myself.
yeah, is there anything that you're working on right now that you can tell us on? Or is it all kind of under wraps?
Well, I
What's
can
been
say
taking
that.
up most of your time?
Well, we just worked on this. I don't know if you've heard Universal Epic Universe. It's a brand new theme park
Oh
in
yeah.
Orlando. So we did like 22 different things for that characters for that thing. Some of them are the most sophisticated in the
Oh
park.
my
Some of them
gosh.
are some of them are autonomous. They walk and interact with people. We I can't really give specifics, but
Yeah.
that was some of the most sophisticated work we've ever done. So I'm really proud of that stuff. And we're, in talks for other stuff for other places right now. So we're kind of taking a break at the moment from that because that was a 4-year project. Started before COVID, actually stopped and then
Holy
started
moly.
again. Yeah.
And this is would you say is maybe on the like in the realm of the most cutting edge some of these animatronics get these days? Like
Yes.
I imagine these theme parks, because of what we've been talking about, like this want of when it releases for it to be the coolest thing for the next 10 years, to make everyone that comes for the next decade kind of, you know, drop their jaw.
I thought you said drop their
Like
drawers. Okay.
drop their
That's what you said.
Abraham
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Yes.
My
No.
pants are coming off right now. They're they're
um, yes.
it's
Yeah. So early on, one of the first animatronic things we made was a small character, a little handheld character, and it was the first handheld character that this theme park company ever
whoa.
commissioned. Um, and I think maybe the first ever. It's very small; it could fit in your hand, and it had a fully expressive face. It was the smallest expressive face,
What?
but it was just on a loop, like a performance loop. So you push a button, and this little thing would, go through its motion. And kids, I carried it around one time for about 4 hours in a crowd, and just to test it. And kids would come up to it, and they would interact with it as if it was it was responding to. They would create a response, in their mind. They would
Yeah.
think this thing is responding to me. So that taught me something like, everybody wants talking robots that interact with you, but this is like these kids are making this up as they go. So,
Yeah.
but now it's like, so that was kind of for me the beginning of that, and then we've worked on multiple iterations of different characters that are now puppeteered, behind the scenes to interact, or now it's like AI, it's going to actually interact with you on its own. So,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah,
What is the future? Kind of
that's
what
the
what do you have
future.
what do you have to look forward to in the next coming years of like how what boundaries you can kind of push in this world. What can you kind
Yeah.
of let us in on what on some insider, like, this is what we have to look forward to? And is there anything that maybe not rubs you the wrong way, but that in the same ways that AI has been kind of taking over and finding itself in so many different occupations, what does the future of your industry look like with you
I don't
know
know regarding the movie business. I don't really know.
okay.
Everybody thought that it was CGI was going to stop practical effects when actually I think it actually built more of the business because CGI or digital companies realized they needed that help. Like it's better
Yeah.
for us to use this as a tool. It's trying to get. You should never get rid of tools. And practical effects is
Ah.
a tool that you use when you have to have a human interaction, human touch. Digital is a great tool when you need to do bigger things, and you don't just scrap one tool for another. To me, I mean, you utilize every tool you have depending upon the need or what you're
Mhm.
doing. So right now everybody is on the bandwagon for let's make this AI walking autonomous thing. When a simple costume would probably do that better, or a
Mm.
puppet would do that better. So let's not spend $1 million when trying to create this thing when it equally effective or even better is this much more simple thing that we know about. So it's kind of the challenge that I think that's the challenge is like trying not to use technology just for technology's sake, to use it as a tool in the proper way, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
No,
and and performance utilize human performance is always going to be um, to me the best. A puppet touch, interaction. I don't know. I think that's always it's one thing I learned from my puppeteer friends. It's like, we'll do, operate this thing mechanically from 10 feet away or put your hand in it and move it. It's like always put your hand in it and move it is going to give you
yeah. Yeah.
the best thing.
I'm, you know, so appreciative of you kind of sharing with us your experience and taking us in on your journey. I'm so excited to get to, you know, head to the theme parks in the coming weeks and months and get to guess which ones are your products. And I would love to maybe give a small moment at the end here for our listeners who are interested. you know there's two kind of questions that I'm thinking of. One is like, what are conventions like? The conventions in Pasadena that you were kind of introduced to early on. If you were starting this today, how different is the landscape in wanting to go into the field that you're going into? Like, I have Drew, one of my best friends. I remember us in high school, him being like, I would die to be an Imagineer. Like, that is the ultimate, that is one of the coolest jobs, to get to craft, all of the gizmos and gadgets that go into creating these worlds.
Mhm.
How does one, what is the pipeline today for the youngsters?
So the Imagineering, well,
Maybe not
okay.
specifically for this one, but just
So
for
make a
someone who's interested in practical.
Yeah. So, for me, like going into the makeup, in the beginning, there was no, I'm dating myself, but the internet was not, social media was not even there yet.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was a little more difficult. The information wasn't there. And luckily I met a human being by Dick Smith that was so open with information. Um, that other people kind of kept very tightly
You
guarded.
still find this today.
Yeah. So yeah, of course, yeah, and But now you can go on the internet and learn how to do anything.
Yeah.
And that's one thing you have to be is a self-starter. There's a lot of people who learn their best method of learning is going to school. Some people learn by teaching themselves. I think it's better in this case that you teach yourself by you
Mm,
know looking online or doing this and trying things and breaking things. I always say, like, you have to do 10 shitty things first before you can to even get to a point where you can do something that's possibly good. And if you can't accept that you're going to be doing these terrible work to get to the good thing, you don't even start. Don't even start. I was told you're not gonna make it there, and I was like, "Pff, that's a challenge to me. I'm going, so, and then after it's like, oh yeah, we knew you were gonna make it. Like everybody thought I was crazy to move to Los Angeles to try to be in everybody around me. That's crazy. And then, once you get that first credit in a movie crawl at the end, then it's like, okay, now it's real. Oh yeah, he did it. I knew he would do it. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon after, but it's like, you have to have that vision. You have to be able to be a self-starter, and be willing to take criticism, from the best. Find the best person, like the thing you want to be. If you want to be an actor, find the best actor who's willing to work with you and learn the craft and take criticism,
mhm.
and learn from it.
Yeah. Lee, before we finish the episode, we have a segment that we conclude every week with. You'll kind of see by example what we're getting onto, but it is basically a ever-growing playlist of music that we put on our audience too. Monica and Jordan will give us their entries this week, but it could be a favorite song. It could be something that's been in your ear recently. It could be something that reminds you of the conversation that we've had today, something from your childhood. But without further ado, Monica and Jordan, unless there's some specific hard-hitting existential questions that you have for Lee here, I'd love to hear your song choices.
So first of all, I just want to give you, Lee, your flowers. I'm a big theme park history lore person. I listen to Defunct Land and Yesterworld Entertainment.
Ah,
Um, so it's really cool getting to meet the man who's award-winning, by the way.
Mhm.
For if you're in Los Angeles, to our listeners, head out to Universal Studios Hollywood and you can check out The Secret Life of Pets Off the Leash, which I have here that you won an award for.
yeah. Secret Life of Pets won a Thea Award, and we're part of that bigger group that created that. So, yes.
That's one of my favorites.
Amazing
Oh,
ride.
cool.
Favorite. I
Great.
cried.
Cool.
And with that, my song of the week in theme with animation is Man or Muppet by Jason Segel from the
Oh,
Muppets
am
movie.
I a man?
Or am I a
Am I a Muppet?
Muppet?
If I'm a Muppet, then I'm a very manly Muppet.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a good one. I also want to give you some props on my end. I was actually very familiar with your work, but I didn't know
Oh,
it's because you did some work in a viral YouTube video, Five Nights at Freddy's in real life,
oh, yes.
with the YouTuber Socks, and
Yes.
a lot of our audience might be FNAF fans.
Yeah, that
yeah,
was cool. That was fun. It was only 8 weeks of work, and we built all those characters in 8 weeks. And I think that I always laugh, like, my friends worked on the movie Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm like, I think our YouTube video creatures got more viewers than that movie.
yeah,
So, because it's like, I think it's like
yes,
46 million,
yeah,
50 million people have seen
Yep.
those videos
and
so
it came
far.
out just 3 days apart from the movie.
2
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
2 days apart. Yeah. So
Oh, I have to. You know what? I have to bring something up real quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I work with Jacob on something.
Oh,
Kirby
No
Buckets.
way.
Yeah, Kirby Buckets. I forgot. We did a couple different episodes, but one was like a giant spider. So we made these big giant spider legs. And then we did something else. I remember, but
What? Oh
yeah.
my
So
gosh. I
awesome.
mean,
Yeah.
talk about a show that is really every time Jacob brings up memories from that show, I'm always like, this was a kid's show? This
Yeah.
was the stuff that they were coming up with for
I'll send a
Kirby and
video.
all of his buddies. Like these
Yeah.
are what a fun time. And dude, Jacob is I wish he could be here for this episode because I'm sure he'd have some silly story about, spiders on set and all
Yeah.
of this. But what a cool connection. We'll definitely he extends his love, but I gotta remind him that y'all have the connection. That's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay, Jordan, do you want to go first and then I'll go?
For the song of the week?
Yes.
Yeah. So just in theme with Five Nights at Freddy's, something creepy. I thought if I was working in an overnight security shift and animatronics started to come to life, the song that comes to mind in my head is Rockwell, Somebody's Watching Me, featuring uncredited Michael Jackson.
Okay.
That's
Mine's
my
gonna
song of the week.
be okay. I have just song of the week.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, mine's gonna be more of a general overall theme.
Okay.
My favorite new band they're not new, but they're new to me. Stray Kids. They just came up with a new album.
Oh my
Just came up with a
gosh.
new album, and they're Do It. The song is called Do It.
Yeah.
So just do it.
We love Stray Kids.
Yes.
My sister just went to the concert a few weeks back over in LA
Wow.
and had the time of her life.
No, very cool.
I mean, we have Stray Kids car fresheners right now in the car. So she's big. She's big on Stray Kids. I love that one. I'll have to listen to it. My song of the week is gonna be a song that just released a few weeks ago from R&B hip hop artist Novian Wright. It's called I Wonder. I'm really liking it. That's what I'm jamming to this week. Oh, and it decided to play on my phone right now. But without further, with nothing kind of left to do, I'd love to send our episode off this week and remind everyone that I appreciate all of our listeners for tuning into this week's episode of the podcast. As always, if you'd like to check out the full-length version of this episode, you can do so at supercast.lonelobos.com for all of our extended cuts, an ad-free version. And again, I'd like to thank Lee for joining us on this episode and wishing nothing but blessings for this new year.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Of
And
course.
lastly, shout out to our Lobito of the week. It is Super Lobito Wyatt G.
Wyatt, ain't nothing but a G thing. Thank you so much, Wyatt, for supporting this podcast directly. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I know I say that every week, but I really mean it for you, Wyatt. Jordan especially. Jordan, he always said that if his child was going to have a name, it was going to be between or Wyatt. So just know you got a really legit name as well. If you want to be like Wyatt and have your chance to get shouted out at the end of each episode, you can do so at our Supercast for our Super Lobitos. And until next week, ciao, bacalao.
This episode of Lone Lobos is a Lone Lobos production, produced by Monica Tamayo and JMKM, with intro music by Nicholas Gray. Like what you hear? Check us out on Instagram at Lone Lobos.